All right, call to order Rankin City Council, Monday, October 23rd. Roll call, Mr. Scott.
Here.
Mr. Brower. Mr. Exley. Mr. Blackwell.
Here.
Ms. Taylor. Mr. Kirk. Here. Mr. Kirkland, would you lead us in our invocation and pledge the flag, please?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We pray for those of our country. We pray for our military men, our fighting firefighters, as well as our police. Please continue to watch over them as they continue to protect and serve. Heavenly Father, we pray that this meeting continues to be civil and that we are able to conduct the business of the city. We pray all these things in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, we'll entertain a motion to approve our agenda for this evening. And we do have one change on our agenda. We did not have our administrative reports. Mr. Blackwell called that one, so thank you. And so I would ask that item 6A, new business, be administrative reports.
Make a motion to approve with the added change.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Blackwell, second by Mr. Kirkland, to approve the agenda with the addition of item 6A, new business. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Brower?
Yes.
Mr. Exley?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirkland?
Yes.
Before we get into our agenda items, wait a minute, I'm sorry, we've got to approval of the minutes. The approval of the minutes of the meeting October the 9th. I've reviewed the minutes. I found them to be an accurate record of that meeting. I did find just a couple of grammatical corrections. Did anyone have any other corrections or changes they found necessary? If not, entertain a motion.
So move to approve.
There's a motion by Mr. Brower, second by Mr. Scott to approve the council minutes of October 9th, 2023 with grammatical corrections. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Brower?
Yes.
Mr. Exley?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Okay, now before we get into our agenda items, I think our police chief has indicated that Corporal Estes wants to make a presentation. So, Corporal Estes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So I just wanted to come up here and let you guys know that the police department in April of this year applied for a grant through GEMA for a Homeland Security program. We received a notification at the end of September that we would get an award totaling $73,248 for our Homeland Security program. Part of the program is we had to submit some items of equipment that we would need. What that's going to go to is basically making sure our officers have the equipment they need to respond to the events that we all don't want to think about. Those will be, ballistic rifle plates, helmets, entry tools to get into buildings and things like that. And then we also added an aspect for training. We're going to get some laptops and we're going to get some more training aids so that we can train our officers. For that, we can also plug in the community because we want to plug in the community to our community response to casual care program. So that just gets them kind of in the idea of how to care for people that might be injured in an active attack. And that's part of our way to give them back to the community and also making our officers safe. Of course, we'll be sending this paperwork up for review and make sure that everything's good to go before we sign an agreement. But I just want to let you guys know that we did receive an award from the state.
It's great.
That's awesome.
And just to let you guys know, there is no match to the award. It's 100% grant funded. The only caveat is reimbursement based, so we would have to expend the money to get the money back. But the PD, Corporal Estes did an amazing job. Like no cost to the city, so congratulations to them.
You won't have any problem spending it, will you?
No, not at all. Thank you.
I just wanted to really briefly expound on his forever humbleness, but he took that on his own, and he did 100% of it. So it wasn't the police department. He did a great job, I think. Thank you.
Yes, good job.
All right, now we get into our agenda items. If you, as we get into the agenda items as they come up, if you're here in regards to a specific item on the agenda, you'll have an opportunity to speak to that item. If you would, at that time, come to the podium and identify yourself, and you'll have an opportunity to speak regarding that agenda item. First, we will go into our public hearing session, and I'll turn it over to our public hearing officer, Mr. Raymond Dick.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll open a public hearing on a petition filed by Bobby Bagwell for a zoning map amendment for 3 parcels. They're located at 0 Town Park East to amend the zoning from GC General Commercial to R8 Residential Multi-Unit Attached Duplex Townhome or row house. The parcels are owned by CMCK LLC. Parcel numbers are 2570033, containing 1.20 acres. Parcel number R2570034, containing 0.85 acres. And parcel R2570035, containing 0.78 acres. Has the proper advertisement been advertised in legal order in the county?
Yes,
Okay, has the property been marked with proper signage as to the zoning request?
yes,
Okay, and have the properties surrounding this within the required distance been notified by mail?
yes, they have.
Okay, so that being said, is there anyone here for, or is Mr. Bagwell present? If you'll come forward, sir. If you'll state your name,
Cody Rogers,
and you're with EMC, is that correct?
EMC
If you
engineer.
would, sir, tell the mayor and council what it is that you're requesting.
All right, the property here is currently zoned GC, General Commercial. We're proposing to rezone that to an R8 zoning to allow this development to occur. We're proposing 23 total units in 3 separate buildings on this property, townhomes. We'll have city water and sewer. We anticipate gravity sewer on this. We'll have detention on site to meet all stormwater requirements. We'll have a sidewalk throughout the development. We're proposing a walking trail around the pond area. One of the things that came out of the Planning Commission meeting was the requirement or request for fencing all the way around the project, so that will be added. It's not in the site plan with me today, but it will be added. We also talked about landscape buffers behind the units where they abut both the existing townhomes and the commercial development, so that'd be the north side and the south side of the development. We're proposing 2 parking spots in the driveway and 1 in the garage that'll be underneath each unit. There's actually room for 5 total because those driveways are long enough to house 4 cars plus the 1 in the garage. There we go. Okay, development up. With that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
I don't see a playground.
No playground on that. There is a park area along the frontage of Town Park Drive West in the common area. That'll be the triangular areas to the north and south of the proposed driveway. We'll have some park benches in that area. We'll have the mail kiosk up front along with some common area parking there.
Planning and zoning, what is their recommendation?
They recommended 4-0, they recommended approval with the
So,
comments that, the kind of discussion that you just referred to.
so I have a question. So now we're converting commercial, which we make money off of, in a sense, over to R8 residential. We had this conversation before about changing zoning. What are we adding for the city? We're adding rooftops, more traffic for a water sewer bill. I mean, you know, at least commercial, you have the potential for a CID.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments from mayor and council?
I'm gonna add on to what Kevin said, it's like he pulled it right out of my brain. Number one, I mean, nothing against what you're doing, but you brought this property and now you wanna change it to R8. We have very few R8 properties in the city of Lincoln as it is, and that creates a lot of density. And as Kevin stated, traffic, I am just,
Yeah, we're creating a heavy impact in that area. And the cost recovery, it doesn't justify the CIDs that we have in the commercial section.
I have another question. What's the price point on these gonna be?
I believe it's 250,000, 275,000.
Yeah. That's expensive for the average person, in my opinion. So,
Well, and I think we're, you know, we have to be careful because we are in a catch-22. Rooftops is what is getting us the numbers that we need to get restaurants and family-type things here. CIDs has given us the money to do those things. What's gonna end up happening though is, we're not gonna have the rooftops to do this. We need to use the rooftops and propose that of what we have throughout the county. I just feel like the CID is much larger for us than the rooftops.
I think we do need the residents, we need to guide them to the point where we need them. And there needs to be an area where it's a lot of work, it's workable. Traffic, controlling traffic, designing traffic, in that area, we don't have it. Over there right now, it's what it is. The expansion of highway outlets for traffic, we can't, there's not a whole lot of designing and change we can do in that to eliminate that impact that we're fixing to put in that area.
So one thing to mention, the existing development to the north is townhomes, so this would fit right in. It's actually a little bit less intense of a townhome development. They don't, the development to the north has parking lots, they don't have driveways, so this is more of a residential feel to it. Another thing, as far as traffic goes with commercial zonings, you would expect the commercial zoning to generate higher amounts of traffic throughout the day than you would a residential development of this size because it's so small. In fact, we've got a total average daily trips of 170 expected here. That's in and out, with total peak trips during the AM and PM being 12 to 14. Excuse me. That is not much of an impact in terms of traffic numbers.
But you can talk about the impact on that, but you're looking at each unit. If there's a 2-bedroom unit, at any given time, that unit can have anywhere from 2 to 3 calls. 2 or 3 calls, and that's a 24-hour impact. And that's not commercial. Most commercial is like you say, it's a very part of the big peak time. But
did you do a traffic study for that area, or
We did not.
where did you get those numbers from? Those are interesting numbers. I'd like to know where you got those.
Sure. There's a manual published by the ITE, and that's gonna International Traffic Engineer. I'm not gonna swear to the acronym, but that's actually where trip generations typically come from for anticipated uses. It's got a myriad of uses in there. So you'd go down to multifamily, and it's usually broken up. They have a number of studies for each use that they've done, and you usually plug in either, it'll be per 1,000 square feet or XYZ variables, but that's where they came from.
It's a standard.
Yeah.
It's a standard.
I was just curious because when we were looking at that lot right over here by Magnolia, and they did that traffic study, the numbers were a lot different than this, and I was just curious where you got that from. That's why I was curious.
Did y'all speak to any of the residents that's in the other townhome area?
Yes, ma'am. I believe, I want to say 5 or 6 came to the planning commission meeting. And we talked a little bit before, once they realized what we were there for, and then we talked afterwards to basically through all their concerns. They left, in my opinion, very happy that there was no animosity there or any major issues that came up. Drainage was a big one that they wanted to make sure that we handled, and of course we've explained that we had the detention pond and we would do all the proper studies to make sure that it was sized so that the runoff leaving this site is not more post than it is pre-development.
Let me ask you, and this property is currently zoned general commercial,
Yes, sir.
and it's right behind a piece of property that's general commercial. And then on the other side is the residential, so you're kind of in between. And you've heard some concerns about changing it from from general commercial to residential and the revenue impact on the city, and other impacts as well. Let me ask if maybe at any time did you look at office commercial as an option, because those are immediately to the right of that property as well. So you've got 3 different things there that are options, I would think. So I don't know whether office commercial could work in there, but I'm just throwing something out here as a consideration rather than the R8, if that has been considered.
We did not consider that as the engineer because that was not what our client brought to us. However, the developer may have considered that, but I could not speak to it.
One thing we have to be careful of is being consistent in how we rule in similar situations, and we've been pretty consistent in denying rezonings to R8. And you can go back and look at the minutes, but I think we need to be mindful of that. And although the traffic, during the day, we may have less traffic, with the residential, but then, businesses will eventually close and you're gonna have, continue to have traffic, after hours with residential units. And also, when it comes to the impact, it's a lot more impact on wastewater treatment and water, police and fire as well.
Well, personally, I would want to speak with the residents that live in the area so I could hear it from them about this situation. So that's where I am.
What is so if this was all approved and everything, permitted and everything, what would be the time build out? How long would you take to build this out and sell the last unit? Or do you have a timeline for that?
I don't have that timeline. Everyone's timeline that we're working with right now is pretty much tomorrow. So I would say it would be as soon as possible.
Right, because, the impact, not only traffic, but our wastewater treatment facility, and we're like 2 or 3 years out before that's even halfway completed probably, so that has a big impact for us.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on behalf of this request?
Can I ask him a question?
Hold on 1 second. I'm going to ask in just a moment for those who may oppose, if you wish to speak on this, if you'll come to the podium, state your name and your address. Yes, ma'am, you have a question for him?
Yes, I do. In your planning of these townhouses, how many acres total you're talking about?
2 point, I'll give you the exact number, 2.82 is the total parcel.
Have you looked at these townhouses? Have you looked at anything about putting solar on the roofs? Or something for shelters for school buses, for kids to be able to be in a place where buses can pick them up? Street lights, fire hydrants, is that any of that shown in your plan?
So, we'll take those one at a time. The solar panels, we have not looked at that. That's a building feature, and as civil, we would not normally look at anything like that. Item number 2, remind me, sorry, I was trying to remember.
School buses?
School buses, school bus shelter. With the park benches being there along Town Park Drive, I believe we could easily put a school bus shelter up front if that was something that was deemed necessary or favorable.
The street lights, is that in the plan, or is that something you look for the city to do?
No, it will be something that we'll provide. It's not at this stage. We'll have to provide a photometric plan showing the lumen count throughout the subdivision. Yes, ma'am. So it will have streetlights.
And what size, square footage approximately is each townhouse?
Oh, I don't want you to hold me to this. The units themselves are 20 by 45.
If you're talking
Go through that quick math.
$250,000, is that gonna be 1,000 square feet? More or less?
I believe it'll be more than 1,000 square feet. I think they'll be looking more at like the 1,500 range.
1,500 range?
And again, that information really needs to come from the developer, not from. That's all you have.
Thank you.
That's right. And just to put it on the record too, anyone who is here to speak for or against this, I'm welcome to speak with you individually after.
All right, thanks, sir. Is there anyone who wishes to oppose this measure or have any comments, concerns, you'll come to the podium, state your name and address.
Mona Underwood, 310 Kessler Street. I keep digging and hunting information, but the thing I'm looking at this week, a lot has been our kids and our school systems and the impact all these multifamily units are having on them. I know I talked to someone the other day at a school, our school, Rinkin, where just a few years ago there was empty offices and now they're having to share offices. Our school's getting crowded. This is having a direct impact on our children. So we need to really consider what this is doing to our kids. Just multi-family units in general. I know in Blue Jay, they're looking at 900 units at Blue Jay in 17. That's gonna be a disaster. That's why now we're gonna build an elementary school and we really need a middle school and a high school. And we're getting the cart before the horse in Effingham County. And that's just more of it. So I hope you vote no.
Anyone else would like to come to the podium and speak? There being none, I'll close the public hearing and we'll go into the second public hearing. Petition's been filed by David Burns for a zoning map amendment for a 21.29 acre parcel located at 1350 North Columbia Avenue to amend the zoning of 2.79 acres from LN, which is limited industrial, to GC general commercial, and an 18.5 acre parcel from LN limited industrial to RA residential multi-unit attached duplex townhome or row house. Parcel is owned by the Zipper Family Limited Partnership. Parcel number is R 2170011. Has this property been advertised in legal Oregon for this?
Yes.
And the property's been posted with signage?
It has.
And the property owners surrounding it have been notified by mail of this request?
They have.
Do we have someone on behalf of the applicant? If you would, come to the podium and state your name and address.
My name is Ben Johnson. Address is 297 Irving Street Extension, Springfield, Georgia. I'm representing the buyers. I'm with Land Unlimited. I'm the broker on the project, and what we're doing is, it's, like I say, it's currently zoned industrial, and we're looking at rezoning it to the R8 and the general commercial. Nothing, no engineering plans have been drawn or anything, so we're just wanting to see what the zoning is first before they start spending the money on everything else. So
What is the recommendation from planning and zoning?
It was 4-0, recommend approval.
Okay. With that being said, does mayor and council have any questions?
Yes. So, why would we not have limited industrial there? Is there a reason why we moved away from that?
this is just their preference.
Just their preference,
Yeah.
or is the
In here and
tract
some-
not large enough to take on another warehouse?
Well, we figured that the city was maybe tired of the warehouses, but we were informed that there was a potential industrial use previously, but was denied. So we figured we would take a different route before the buyers figured out.
So the only thing that I would add is that I would like to see more commercial there. I mean, the R8, obviously you see how we all feel about R8. But adding more commercial there would be really important for the city to go back and look at that.
Yeah, and that was the main purpose to start here, just to see what,
Yeah,
and then if the city has a certain use for the industrial, I mean, I'm sure they would definitely entertain to hear what you had to say or what your request was.
and then I wanted to ask Tim if I could, where does that water, where do we go? Do we go right there to the Y? Is that where our pipe is?
Our water main runs along that side right in front of that property,
Right in front of it? Okay,
and the force main too. For sewer, they'd have to put in a lift station.
okay.
I think that would be an added attraction on that end. And like Kevin, add as much commercial on the front side as possible. But I can see it as a plus for keeping the balance of residents by putting the residents on the back, but I would feel better with a 6 instead of an 8. And that would give us a balance of each, but more with the commercial.
And then you're saying maybe maybe split it in acreage to commercial versus, I got you.
Yeah. And we can, and we've got a lot of options on that road, and that's what traffic is. And we got that would help us with traffic.
Ben, what does that back up to?
Got the railroad on the back side, the main line with CSX. You have spur rail and the power line on the, I guess, the east side there, south side, but 21 on the front and industrial across the branch to the north side of it. So it's pretty much surrounded by permanent buffers, basically. And then the pond, you can see the pond in the front, and this is, like I said, this is just basically lines on the paper is what this is. So looking at building a retention pond behind the existing pond and making that existing pond, the commercial lot up front.
So you would drain that pond, fill it in to make the.
Put the retention pond and have some more, you still have your commercial up front to provide more buffer from 21 to see the.
And the way they're
You
talking,
can move that back.
yeah,
Sorry,
they're talking
That
moving it
retention
back.
back.
Yeah,
Okay,
and utilize the front as far as.
more commercial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do y'all have a problem in lowering the density? Maybe to assist or something like that.
Yeah, lower the density.
I mean, we just have to see what.
The thing I was looking at too is, like Ms. Underwood was speaking about the school and our public police departments in the county and all the cities, the fire departments. And they're hiring young individuals. We need to have housing for that single person, young professional, a teacher, or firefighter, or policeman. So R6 might work better with that. Of course, they may get married and have kids, but it would reduce the density. So that's what I was thinking about for developers, to look for something like that. Not a big fancy place, just 2 bedrooms, that kind of stuff, where the young professionals getting started that are single and they need a low-cost
Yeah.
place to live.
What is the difference between the R8 and R6?
Terry can.
The amount.
So,
I know it's the.
I do want to speak to this
density of
because
it.
my concern with that is unfortunately the way our ordinance is written right now. Yes, it would be great if it were 8 units per acre in R8 and 6 units per acre in R6, but it's not that way. It's very specific to use as well. So in the R6 district, you can only do attached duplexes. You can't do townhomes. R8 is where you can do townhomes, which I think is why we see so many of these requests specifically for R8, even when they're not even planning to do as many units as are allowed by that density, but you see it because they want to do townhomes, and that's the district that allows townhomes.
But if
So
we did-
definitely when we look at redoing an ordinance, that's something we want to keep in mind, because it doesn't give you that flexibility right now necessarily to reduce that, to reduce it to say, let's just do R6, because then unless they want to do duplexes, it doesn't necessarily work.
But R4 does allow townhomes, correct?
I will look.
Because in that one.
No, R4 does not. R4 only allows.
Single family.
My preference is just what everybody said, do some commercial in the front, like a commercial building, and then put some townhomes in the back, not R8 though, that's just a lot, in my opinion.
Sure, what can we do with the ordinance? Do you
Change it.
I mean, can we do the stipulation with them on how many many units they, well, it's up to them how many they put in there, if they approve R8.
So it is, but you wouldn't be like, if you rezone the property to R8, then they're allowed to do however many units are permitted in R8. You would have to do some sort of development agreement or
That's
something
what I'm
like
talking
that to tie them into it. Otherwise, they get exactly what that base district allows.
And that's what I'm thinking. Let's do a development agreement within the plans, and if they agree with it, then it's something we can work with.
Yeah, because right now, I think under what the R8 says, that's like 88 units.
So if that's 88 units and we reduce that.
So do you say,
number-
okay, we'll allow you X amount of units?
Right.
Whether it's R6 or R8?
So like 50 units, if we went to 50 units, that would give us more commercial frontage, shorten up that.
What is the green area?
That's just like common area, it'd be like walking trails, stuff like that. So when you see behind it, I don't know if you can see it on there, you can see the kind of
Yeah, it's a
the
wetland.
gridded line, the wetlands behind it, but that would just be kind of like a common area. And again, this is just very preliminary. I mean,
I like the green area.
Yeah, that means space.
Common space.
Do you think the owners would be, okay with doing a development agreement for this?
yeah, I guess they would have to see what it all involves before they would, I can't answer that, but you just got to see if, it's a numbers thing. We all know that, so, if it makes sense, then yeah.
And Mayor and Council, I think we were gonna look at probably having a workshop here in the coming weeks. This may be an item we can add to that to have some further discussion with them before they continue in their process.
At the end of the day, we want, y'all to be happy, the city to be happy, and hang our hat on something nice, and then if it makes sense to move forward.
I know we continue to have conversations about the R6 and the R8s, and the impact it has on the city. And some areas I think are more conducive to that than others. And in my mind, this is a good area for that. It's not impacting other residential around. Whatever we work out as far as maybe changing the balance on that a little bit, as far as the commercial and the residential, I think that's probably something we need to look at. But as far as the location where it is, I think it's really as good a place as you can have, or R6 or R8, whatever it ends up being.
Nope, that's not, talking about balance, that area over there, there's very little, if any, residential, so I mean, to have balance.
Gotta move out there.
Opportunities.
And what is it 45 miles an hour right there, I think?
It's still 40.
So it's still,
Will that be, that entrance on, would that be where the entrances onto the property, wasn't there a red light going there or something?
that's further north.
Further north? Oh, okay.
Not far further north,
Not far.
it's probably,
Yes.
1,000 feet maybe, something like that.
Well, that would give people an opportunity to
Kind of
get out.
give a break.
That's right.
Any other questions from mayor and council? Is there anyone that would like to speak on behalf of this measure? Is anyone, thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions? All right,
I have a question, please.
to him, or would you like to come to?
This project,
Okay, if you'll come to the podium,
and I might
state
be
your
off base
name
on
and
this.
address.
My name is Tim Milner. I live in the LP district. My question on this is, we have a situation with picket fences where there's only one entrance or exit. Does this pose a similar concept?
Yes, it does.
That's my only question. Thank you. I just want to make sure we have all our bases covered.
Good point. I
What
thought about
comes
that
out the
myself.
back side of that, when you cross the railroad tracks, what is that? Back
There's no crossing. I mean, that's the thing. The difference between that and picket fence, there's no rail
That's right. But
coming to the,
I guess what I'm saying is back at the end of your green space where the tracks are, right?
that's the CSX main line. is what
That's
that
the
is.
CSX.
Yeah.
So what is on the other side of that line?
You would have Lexington Extension further over, but I think there's a few houses that back up, but basically you can, from Lexington Extension, you can see, I think there's, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 houses between the power line and before you get to like Kate's Cove on the left. So I think there is maybe an ash road that comes in there that serves maybe a few more houses off of there, but you may
I was
have.
just wondering if there was a way for us to be able to get to it through the backside.
But it would
And
never get
what I-
blocked by the train.
See, it won't be blocked, it's by the train because the tracks.
It would never get
Right.
blocked.
Yeah,
There are tracks in the.
But
rail.
what I did, when I talked to Ms. Terry about it, just when we first had the conversation, is there an option? I know there's a road that comes down the power line. Would that be something that, I mean, we would be glad to go to the power company or whoever owns the spur, or whether it's CSX or Southern, to see if it would just be an emergency use only, because there is a road or a culvert that comes off of 21. So we did look at that, and you could come out the backside of that cul-de-sac, you can come up to right before that overflow parking, and maybe put an emergency access road to come out to the power line and to provide,
It'd be good to have an extra.
Absolutely.
But on this situation here, we won't worry about the railroad track because the railroad track's in the rail.
Yeah.
But Mr. Harrison, correct me if I'm wrong, can't we address this in the development agreement before anything moves forward?
That's right.
We have to make sure that we have 2 entrances.
That's correct, and our threshold is 75 lots or more. We require 2 lanes in and out, so we're right above that here.
So if he reduced that, potentially you wouldn't have to have.
74 or less, you don't, by ordinance, you don't have to have one, that's correct.
Right.
But I mean, if it makes sense, then if we could work it out with the power company, well, that's what,
That'd even better, yes, sir.
Yeah,
that's what
be
we want. I
better.
don't care if it's 20 lots. I mean, if it's something
Right.
that they can. have enough
Yeah, because
access.
that's one of the worst spots in the city right there, where that's power line, gas line,
Railroad.
and railroad right there. So it does have potential to block that entrance if
And
we
it
had
looks like
something
that's a
major.
connector too, so there's 3 different lines, so there could be a lot of backing in and out and.
Some issue there.
If you'll come to the podium now,
This is the first time I've ever been here, so I don't know.
if you'll state your name and your
I'm
address.
Wendy Waters, and I live at the end of Victory Lane right there. Where the my backyard, we got the main one that goes under the overpass. We got the one that goes straight across 21, and I got the ones that go out both sides this way. And when you come down Lexington to Victory, sometimes the train does block you there. I just wondered about, like I said, they were talking about retention pond and putting other, places in there. So I didn't know, I was just, concerned about that, but that's why I was looking, I'm like, that's my house basically right there. But I'm at the end of the road there, so I'd be, I'd be like right behind us. So I didn't know how that would work out, but like I said, you're talking about using that road. I mean, if you come down that road, you have to go through my driveway to get across the tracks to get to 21 right there.
No, I wasn't saying using that road. I was just saying where there was a road, I thought that came in there feeding those, but there's not a crossing on the railroad to get over on on the 21
No,
side.
not through there.
Yeah,
No,
so there
no,
would be no traffic.
Yeah, if you get to the end of Victory, then you'd be going through
Yes,
my,
ma'am.
my yard
Yes,
there.
No,
Across.
there would be no travel.
And your suggestion would be able to come across that from the backside, come across the power line to get you over to,
I would say in summer, where you came in this break here, or you came in the cul-de-sac, because way up here by 21, there is I'm almost certain, but I think
Right.
there's a culvert right here, so.
Right.
There is.
Just emergency use only.
That's
There
right.
could be an option to, have an agreement with the power company or the railroad to be able to use that in an
Yeah.
emergency situation. But there's no traveling on that side of the road whatsoever.
okay.
That's Georgia Power right away down through there.
Is it Georgia Power?
Yeah.
Unless the emergency is the railroad tracks.
If we came straight across Ben, does that take us over by the, I guess I'm turning around, does that take us over by the Y?
The Y's
Right
yeah,
next to
the
the
Y's
Y's right there.
So you got, it's kind of cut off, but you got the mini storages are basically right here.
Okay. So we could come off of there and come over by the Y with a.
You'd have to cross the railroad track.
To get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What he's talking about, just coming down, come out the backside of the development, come parallel the power lines back out to 21.
Yeah.
So this is the spur rail, this is the spur rail right here.
Yeah.
So you would come out of this and hug the tree line right up behind the units and come down and then enter out on 21.
What's the price point?
I have no clue. Like I said, we're just doing this to start with, just to get, we're not gonna, the folks are not gonna spend $150,000, $200,000 on engineering and all that type of stuff and not get the zoning. So you gotta make sure you can get the zoning first and then then they're still gonna have to come back
Right.
and get the other approval, just like the zoning did before with engineered plans. So this is just all.
And then you'd have to limit that to there.
Is it okay, Steve?
Yeah, come on.
My concern is first, is that that's where it turns to 55 at. And I literally have friends that have quit going to the Y and have moved to Planet Fitness because they're scared to cross the road. Left-hand turn, that's dangerous there. So you're
55
going
mile an hour doesn't start until the Habitat.
right past there at Habitat, right down there, okay?
Building up above.
But it's really dangerous there. And then you've got, and this is forward thinking. But we know without a doubt, Greenland Development's gonna have train issues. So you add traffic congestion with trains across, because we're gonna have to, the reality is with Greenland Development, what they're doing over there, they're gonna use those rails. And that means we're gonna have more and more congestion, more and more rails switching, more and more rails blocking Highway 21, and that's gonna be issues. And their entrance is right there at the rails, so that's gotta be considered. And then the other thing is if, and it troubles me to know that a developer walked out of Rincon without a second entrance, and my tax dollars can't go to things we need. It's got to go to $2 million to protect our citizens with a second entrance. And we're trying to figure out how to cheat down under 75 so they don't have to have one, and how we can get a dirt road places. We need to be really careful with that. We really do. And the reality is, I'm gonna tell you something else. Bus driver in me, a bus will not be able to get in there and get turned around and get out. That's gotta be considered, because you're not gonna want children to walk out to that highway. No way. So there's just a lot to consider in this. And 88 units, again, I know this is probably before you put a key in the lock, it's 2 years out.
I can't answer that.
So, I don't know, maybe we'll have a middle school and high school by then, or we'll just keep building elementary schools and put trailers up out on our school property. It'd be really nice if we all got together and got a plan, but that's just my thought. But that's a dangerous place. I think they need a true second entrance, just for safety's sake, coming out, going in or something. And, I don't know what you're gonna do about traffic in that area, because you're gonna have semi trucks from Greenland, you're gonna have trails, you're gonna have the rail issues with trains, and that's not right now.
And that's basically what we're doing, because right now it's zoned for the exact same thing.
Right.
So I mean, you would be taking the truck traffic.
One thing to remember at this moment, there's gonna be a light placed at the Greenland entrance, which is gonna slow traffic a little bit.
That's further up.
Right, but it'll slow it coming out, and, speed limit should be 45, I know it's not.
So but it's not gonna be stopping it coming,
Correct, you're absolutely correct. I just wanted to.
that's just a busy little spot.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? There being none, I'll close the public hearing on public hearing number 2. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll open the public hearing number 3. This is a public hearing to review proposed amendments to the City of Lincoln ordinances, specifically section 90-21, planning and zoning board language. I'm assuming that this has been advertised because it has an effect of a zoning issue with ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are you?
Yes.
If you'll come to the podium and explain.
So, earlier this year, the Planning and Zoning Board adopted rules of procedure, and the effect of that was to, really, I guess I should back up. The purpose of that was just to give them a more readable, usable guideline for operating their meetings and to help staff as well. As part, and like I said in my memo to y'all, these rules provide clarity and consistency, fairness, efficiency, and help to enhance the professionalism of the board. So the board, I drafted them, the board reviewed them in a couple of meetings, and then took another couple of meetings before they approved them. So with that, we did find that in looking at the language for the Planning and Zoning Board in the ordinance, there are a lot of duplications. So what this proposes to do is to take out those duplications and also just update it. If you look at what's, I know it looks like a lot of strike-throughs. Some of it's just because it's being moved. Some of it's because it came to the rules of procedure. You can also see there are dates in there, like 2010, 2012, 2014. So it's just cleaning all that language up, not putting specific dates like that in there.
Terry, I'll start with this. Is phenomenal. I wish we had this updated years ago when I was on planning and zoning.
Same here.
I think my only question was, is there anything that you feel like, no, let me say it. So do you think we should have at least one person from council to come and join these meetings, or do you think it would be a distraction? That's really what I'm trying to ask, because I think some things, I know by being on planning and zoning, I know sometimes we really don't know where council's mind is, right? Do you think that would be a distraction or something to add in here, or, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, so it does, actually, the ordinance already provided for, and I left it in there, that a member of city council shall be appointed as an ex officio member of the board. So that's in there. I don't know that it's been put in place. I know we don't have one.
That's why I asked the question.
At one point, got a liaison coming into the meeting.
Okay. I don't think it would be a distraction. I think my concern would be, I think the benefit is that person, in addition to myself, can report back to kind of what that discussion was. I think the part to be careful about is you wouldn't want to, unless you knew that you represented what council felt as a whole, it'd be difficult for you to share what council felt. If it was a kind of a policy thing, hey, we're not sure about R8 in certain areas, then that would maybe be something to share. But you know what I'm saying, though, right? So, but yeah, so that's in here, that one would be appointed as an ex officio member, and so then I guess it would just be up to y'all to do that, and then that person could attend as needed. We would make sure that, I think y'all get a copy of the agenda.
Sure, let me
No matter what.
interject. That policy we had in place, we did have a councilman that was appointed as a liaison, but we found that it was more effective to let the director handle it, and then we had joint meetings together with the full council, and that seemed to work better than having that liaison person at the meeting and stuff like that.
And I know the board loved that workshop that they had with y'all, and they would like to do that. You know, I think we talked about doing it at least quarterly. They took a lot from that. I think that's a really great opportunity to be able to share council's philosophy and policies.
And I kind of like that concept, you know.
I'm okay with that either way, but if we were gonna go in that direction, I'd like to see that written in here, that we will hold quarterly meetings with, you know, planning and zoning versus having the appointed person. But if we are gonna have an appointed person, I would like for us to appoint a person, so, but I'm okay either way. That's why I asked the question, because we don't have an appointed person. But I like the idea of quarterly. If we can get that written in here, I think I'm good with that.
I guess, do y'all have a preference? Would you rather it be, take out the ex officio language and have it changed to a?
I feel, I agree with that, because I think that was the purpose of eliminating that person, even though we didn't take it out of the procedure.
That's why I had that appointed, is what you're saying.
Quarterly meeting.
The quarterly meetings might be better, because then they get to hear all of our views instead of the one representative that might carry the primary goal, but may influence in another way too, so.
Well, I think it's hard too, because often, so things go to, the items go to planning and zoning board first, as they should for a recommendation, but it means that y'all haven't weighed in and gotten to hear it as a group to be able to share that same information back to the planning and zoning board before it comes back to you.
It's just
So,
like the discussions we're having tonight about the R8 and R6.
Right.
For all of that kind of zoning. They would ask you, and you ask us if we were on the board, it'd be kind of confusing, because we don't know the codes like you do, you know, so.
Yeah, the recommendation may not be
Right.
there.
That's true. So I like the quarterly meetings also.
Let me throw my IT plug. If you guys look at your iPads, go to Granulus, the planning and zoning, and all their notes, well, not their notes, but all of the attachments are all in there. Beautiful thing.
oh, I love it. I mean, that's what I'm using to take my notes from this meeting. I mean, I do it during planning and zoning board. It is fabulous, so I'll give it a plug too. All right, so it sounds like to go ahead and before first reading, make that change to quarterly meetings and delete the portion about the ex officio member.
Any other questions or comments from mayor and council? Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments? There being none, I'll close that public hearing.
Well, I think she had a comment, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jen Hilburn with 100 Miles, and I would just like to offer a suggestion that rather than deleting one, that you leave the option for either or, either an appointed person or quarterly meetings.
That's a good point.
I like that.
All right, any other? We'll close that public hearing and we'll open public hearing number 4. Public hearing to review proposed amendments to the City of Lincoln ordinances, Section 90-122, sign regulations, general and special provisions, and Section 90-129, Table 1, allowable sign functions and required permit fees, and Table 2, list of sign types and dimensions allowed or prohibited. And this was advertised in legal order, is that
It was.
If you would explain what this is.
Okay, so this is based on a request that came to y'all earlier this year for a variance. If you remember, we had a gentleman come that was requesting a variance to the sign regulations to allow a bigger sign allowance for a billboard. And in talking to both the planning and zoning board and council, the discussion was that he didn't really meet the requirements for a variance, but that our billboard regulations needed to be studied because they hadn't been updated since at least 2010. So he ultimately decided to withdraw that variance request, did some research, sent it to us. I did some research as well, and out of that came the amendments that you see before you for billboards. And you can see that they are more specific than what is in there right now. Right now, where you see billboards is just in the 2 tables. And so in addition to increasing the maximum square footage for a billboard to 300 square feet, which is pretty typical in and around the county. I also added some specific language, also looking at other nearby jurisdictions. So looking at, if they're illuminated, how tall that they can be above grade, extrusions beyond the face of the billboard, one facing the same direction per location, 500 feet separation, and that they also must comply with all aspects of the Georgia Outdoor Advertising Code. So in addition to just making that increase, I also added some specificity to just kind of keep billboards under control as well.
Any questions or comments from mayor and council?
Did you get some assistance from Mr., I think his name was Michael Gilder or whatever his name is?
Yes. He sent me a lot of research, and then I've been in touch with him probably every few weeks to let him know where we are. I sent him a draft of the regulations before I took them forward or before I advertised them, actually. So.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Does the city have a billboard?
Our own billboard? I don't believe so, but.
Okay.
All thing we have is 2 signs, 2 lighted signs, or 1 lighted sign and 1 broke lighted sign.
I just want to say, and I appreciate everything you and your staff has done on this, Terry. As we've talked over the past weeks about reviewing our procedures, our policies, our ordinances, all that, and that is something that we consistently and constantly need to do. But this is an example of what I'm saying is that these things usually happen because someone brings something to our attention. They have a request that is not properly addressed in our current ordinances and all. So this is a great example of what I'm talking about, the things that happen and cause us to review and change. And so I think you've taken the information that this gentleman has offered, you've done your work on it, and I think you've presented something that is more comparable to what we find all around us in the other municipalities. And so I appreciate your work.
Okay. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's often in any municipality how code changes happen is you get something. It doesn't mean that every time somebody doesn't get a variance that we're changing it, but it does give you an opportunity to take a look at it, and especially when codes haven't been updated in a while. I mean, one thing, and I don't want to get too far off track, I'll just say that, once we do get a new UDO written and adopted, I think we need to, be on a regular review, every, 6 months to a year reviewing it. What's changed out there? What do we need to adopt? So.
Any other questions or comments from mayor?
The only question I had, Terry, was the minimum height above grade and maximum is 10 feet and 30 feet. Is that adequate? And you think about it, 10 feet high seems low to me.
It was.
The sign can't be no higher than 30 feet, so I'm just curious. Is that the standard or?
It's the standard that I found when I was looking out there, and I think it's to keep them from being too high up and too distracting as well, because then your eye's lifting well beyond the roadway.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public have any questions or comments?
Has it occurred to anyone that the 2010 code was correct? That we don't want honking big billboards all over our city? I mean, that was a sweet young man, but he never built a billboard in his life. And we're gonna pass a possible code. I find it really hard to talk to people when you look me in the face.
Ms. Mona, I don't know, from what I saw.
I'm good.
Anyone else from the public have any comments or questions? There being none, I'll close our public hearing and turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey. At this time, we'll go into our new business items. Item number 1, new business, is Ms. Cheryl Jackson, request to appear before council.
Good evening. I would like to thank the council for having the survey done on the property that I live on and on the access lane that's behind my house. I watch everything that goes on around my neighborhood, and I watched them do the first survey, and then they came back and did another one a few days the next week. I went, why are they doing that? Well, they were doing it, I guess, to double make sure where stuff was at. And especially in that lane, because there are buildings in that lane that need to be removed. I don't know if you have
One step ahead of you.
the first house facing the railroad track is Mr. Durden's house. And you can see there's supposed to be a 20-foot lane there. And I went and I measured it, and it was only 8 feet, and it's so full of trees and bushes and junk, you can't even get down it. And then if you go, let me show you.
I can see it.
This is Mr. Durden's property, this is my property, and the railroad's over here. This is supposed to be 20 feet. From Mr. Durden's back fence, it's not even 10 feet, it's 8 feet, that's all that's open. And when you get down to here, there's a building on this property here. And it's close to my fence. If you go a little bit further down on his property, he takes over the whole 20 feet. And that is a concrete floor, that is a garage. If you go on the next property, which I was told he had bought, but he sold it to a friend, there's another one. Now, there's supposed to be a transformer. If you go over here, my house is over here, there's a transformer pole somewhere in here that pulled out a power head out of the roof of my house when there was a storm. All of this here have got huge trees now growing in it that need to be removed. It needs to be open. This is an access lane. Even the church's property they bought, you'll see there's a building on it that shouldn't be there. And all of that is nothing but garbage and big trees all across here. And it's a mess. It's a jungle back there. And I'm very appreciative of Mr. Lynn keeping me informed of everything, because when I came back in September, y'all said you would keep me informed every week, and I appreciate that you have. I appreciate the fact that I told you the 2 huge trees. I've got a huge oak tree that is probably 250 years old. It's huge, it's beautiful, I love it. But it's on the city's property, it's not on my property. And there was a huge one, not 30 feet from it, that was just as big as it was, and it hung over my house. I paid $2,000 to have that one taken down. Now, the huge one that I've got now, I paid $1,000 for have it trimmed probably 15 years ago, because you don't want your huge trees. You all say beautify Rincon. Well, those old oak trees need to be trimmed. You get them where they keep getting all these rotten branches in it, you have a sick tree, and they're going to have limbs coming down. My tree was hanging over the street. The garbage truck could not even get to where my garbage cans were, because when he lifted it up, he's hitting the branches. That means cars that were going past there too, those branches could fall. And I want to let you know that James, the man you sent over for the tree that cuts the trees and stuff, he did a wonderful job. Him and his 3 crew, it was Antonio, Joe, and I think the third one told me his name was Donahue. They worked like crazy. They cut that tree. You may look at it now, it may look to you like, oh, it looks horrible. But when I had it trimmed before, like the tree surgeons told me, it won't look real pretty at first, but it will fill out and it will become healthy, and it'll live another 200 years. And it's a gorgeous tree. And the other tree, and I appreciate you doing it on the other side too, because it's close to where the water line is. And I didn't want to have to take that tree down and have something happen to the water lines that are in the yard. That goes right up to that city property. And they took all the dead branches off. I wish he said, I'll take it down if you want. I said, well, you better talk to the city about that, because I don't know if they'd approve that. But the access lane to me is important. The train You all know about the train. The train has had at least 5 problems in the last 6 months. It has stopped in front of my house. It came apart 2.5 weeks ago. The train and several of the cars, it just came apart. And I had cars that had stopped right by the end of my driveway, straight across from me. If it had derailed, you and me talk about beautifying Rincon, because we've got 2 gas stations that were allowed to be built next to each other right on 9th Street, that if you'd had East Palestine, Rincon wouldn't be here. Dunkin' Donuts would be flying donuts in the air. It's the truth, and it's scary because it happens, where the engine was down right there where picket fence is. My friend June, who lives down there, she came over to my house because she'd been in Kroger. She says, I can't get back in there. I said, well, I got a spare bedroom. Come stay with me, till they get it fixed. How many times has CSX called you and told you what the problem has been? Do you have a safety plan? Do you have a way to find them if they don't contact you? I've called the police myself a couple of times. I've called Reese, and he wasn't even home, poor guy. I said, you need to get the cops down here. I can't get a hold of anybody. It's scary. That access lane, to me, if it came into my house, I'd probably be dead. But if I did live, that'd be the only way I'd be able to get out of there. If there was a chemical spill. When that train 2.5 weeks ago, when it came apart, there were another 100 cars that they had to back that train up after an hour and a half to connect it again. And then, I can't believe, it used to be 1 engine and 40 to 60 cars. Now, my house was built by Bobby Reddick. It's got 6-inch walls, and my house is well insulated. It has double pane windows. I have made sure that I have kept my house to where it doesn't bother me. But I know when something happens, because, boy, when it bangs, there's something wrong. And I'm going, what's the problem? How come they keep having these problems? What does CSX have? Are they telling you anything? Are you asking them anything? What is your safety plan? If there was a chemical spill, I had a couple ladies said, oh, we smelled something after that. I didn't smell anything. I lived right there. But I had other people tell me they did. So do you have a safety plan? Do you have people that contact you? Why can't an engineer who's driving these trains call someone directly when they're in that engine room and they got a problem and they got to stop that train? Nothing?
Oh, I'm sorry. So the contact, Chief Merle and Chief Reed, they have a contact that they can contact, and they also get emails when it's planned. When it's unplanned and we find issues, both the chief and Lou, they do have a contact that they can call.
Have they contacted you when they had all these issues? And how many have there been?
There's been several, but
Yes.
they've not contacted me prior to me having to reach out to them. But I'm not speaking for Chief Reed, but
You'd have to reach out to them.
I know exactly which incident you're talking about. I believe Mr. Brower was in the elevator, because I got a phone call from him.
Yeah, and I called him.
Right, so, I reached out to, our contact, and that specific incident, the coupler on the train actually broke off of the train. That's why.
I know, I saw it.
So we do get feedback. It is after, has been my experience, it is after I have to reach out to them.
That needs to change.
We generally do, get a response as to why.
Do y'all know what the state laws require CSX to do? Do you know if they have the proper brakes on these trains? I know they didn't on the ones that East Palestine had.
Lou, what do we have if there's a chemical spill? Can you explain that to her?
Mass evacuation.
Evacuation how?
Well,
Where?
You can't go across 9th Street to Blue Jay Road right now. Railroad tracks are closed.
It just would require us to access your area from the opposite
side of the tracks.
And evacuate out that direction. We have to go around if this.
The only way I would know to go around is through that access lane that's behind my house and go behind Effingham County Church. There's a road that goes back there. to get back up on 21.
Just a matter of what all crossings that train has blocked. It could require us to go around the Call Road and come back in the other side of Blue Ridge.
I know the people on 4th Street are saying they can't believe how their houses are shaking right now. Because it used to be you have one engine, okay, and maybe 40 or 50 cars. They're now using 3 engines. They'll have 2 in the front, maybe 1 in the middle, or sometimes 1 at the end. And they're hauling 140 to 160 cars. And the one that came apart the other day, it had at least, I counted them when he went by, when they finally pulled it and pulled it slowly, and they pulled it slowly, there were like 28 chemical cars on that particular one. And there's nothing for them to have 20 to 30 cars on these ones they're pulling. Is there a weight limit? Is there a speed limit? They shouldn't be allowed to go 40 and 50 miles an hour down the middle of Rincon. I'm sorry, it needs to be, if there is a law, it needs to be changed, especially when they're hauling chemicals.
There is a speed limit. They're required to travel the speed that they're running, that they're crossing roadways. So the speed limit on Main Street, they're required to abide by that speed limit.
And what is the speed limit?
We cannot enforce that. On West Ninth Street, is it
Yeah.
30?
30? Well, I can tell you right now, they're going more than 30.
I know because I've sat there because I'm curious and ran radar and clocked Amtrak coming through that set.
Yeah, really. At 3 o'clock in the morning, Amtrak is.
Well, we have no jurisdiction over those at that point. We cannot, as a local municipality, I cannot hold that train conductor accountable.
So Chief, can we do it for backup?
We don't have the jurisdiction.
Who does?
To build a case.
The state.
I mean, you're
So
not.
that's what I'm saying, you've got cases in legislation already,
They
fighting like dogs.
we work with everybody. with
Channel County, every
CSX
county,
and Norfolk
every
Southern
city
have
around
a
here is fighting the
single law
railroad right now to no avail.
for the region.
Isn't Georgia Department of Transportation contact for railroads? Because I know Ann Purcell does railroad
Ann
crossing.
Purcell.
She can
Contact
contact,
Ann
I'm no expert on this. I think you bring up some very valid points, Ms. Jackson, that should cause us all concern.
Some concern.
I think that probably the ultimate authority over the railroad would be the National Transportation Safety Board. And they would be the ultimate controlling.
What about EPA with all the chemicals?
Well, again, that would fall under that, but I think primarily it starts, I would think, with the National Transportation Safety Board.
I really
And
think as a
there are lot
small
of
town,
entities that could be involved.
as a small town, as a council, you really need to dig and look into what happened at East Palestine and see what's happened. Georgia Ports uses, and I mean, Chatham County got what, $1.7 million or $1 billion for safety for rail and roads because of Georgia Power going from number 4th to number 3rd of the biggest port now in the country. Infrastructure is affecting our infrastructure. We need to be working with them also. Because they're the ones that are putting these cars out there to be moved.
Is there some way we could check into how emergency response can work in a disaster like this? And then how does it work and how can citizens use it? And how can citizens be aware of emergency response alerts during the time like that? Because emergency response is very sophisticated now. I know Lou's working on a lot of that now. But some of our older citizens may not be aware when their phone goes off what that may mean. But I think if we could look into it and use some educational processes for our community, it would help. And especially with the concerns, especially with picket fences until that's fixed. So, because emergency alert's something that's easy to use, it's sitting there. So how can we use it in that circumstance? How do we apply it with a rail accident? How do we notify and educate our citizens on it?
So there's a couple things that talking with Jonathan, we're bringing on, they're bringing the council something that will allow us to communicate with our citizens a whole lot better, allow a little more email, phone call, complaints, the whole 9 yards, and I don't want to steal all of his thunder, but that is something that is definitely going to happen. The second thing is, when it comes to disaster, with my military background, we always had disasters, and sometimes the smaller places don't have the facilities to be able to handle the major disasters. So what they'll do is, we'll have to coordinate with Effingham County, with Chatham County, and come up with how are we gonna handle these different disasters and who's gonna help and how we're gonna help.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that we talked about, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, about getting the workshop together to sit down and actually have a plan to address all the issues that you talked about.
Jonathan, could we reach out to like the National Transportation Safety Board, GDOT? And I mean, I'm sure that they would have some general plans of evacuation, emergency, and, because every municipality is going to be different, and they're going to have a different plan, but if there's something very general that gives you something to work off of, where you can formulate your own plan, I mean, could you look into that and see if there is something there from those two organizations or others, even from the railroad?
Yes, sir.
That would give us some point of where to start and how to formulate our own.
And sorry.
I was just gonna say, into part one of your problem with the lane blockage, I mean, to me, that's a notice to move that.
Yeah,
That's on our property. But the one thing that I originally started with Ms. Jackson when I was originally on council before about the same issue. And then Reese took it and, but we never really solved her problem back then. And what I am saying is this time, let's make sure that we solve the problem, and then let's make sure that we put a date on it. So if we're gonna give people in that lane 60 days to get it clear, give them the days, give them a notice. Don't just say, we need you to move this, and give them a time limit to get it out of there.
Yes, sir.
I don't think they need 60-day notice.
Obviously, they knew that wasn't their property, and pour slab in the middle of an easement, I mean, a lane is crazy. So we need to give we need to put a time limit on it so that Ms. Jackson knows, hey, this is the day that he's gotta be out of here, this is the day that my lane will be clear.
Any information that goes out to any of the homeowners on Savannah, there's 3 places there. There's the church, there's the people that used to live on the very corner, I don't know who lives there now, and Mr. Stanley Brown lives in the middle. I would like to have, both Kelly and I Durden and I would like to have CC copied of any things that you send out to, because I'm not gonna let it go. I'm just not, I'm sorry. And I'm not sorry either.
Well, then you shouldn't let it go.
But I do want to tell you, I really do thank y'all for having the gentleman that came out and do the tree. He did a fantastic job. I mean, it wasn't like he just cut the limbs. Even when he wasn't cutting, he'd get down there and he'd help them guys pick up them limbs and get them in the chipper and stuff, and made sure, that everything was fine. I really appreciated them. They did a great job. And I hope you do just as great a job on the access lane clearing it too, all the way down to the next block. And thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Along that same note, we ought to look at the lanes that go all the way up between Georgia and Savannah Avenue. Looking at the maps on my tablet here, there could be some other issues with building encroachment on the lane and the easements.
Yes, sir.
Chief Reed, you and I talked a while back, a couple of weeks ago, about the public service, or public emergency announcement. And I know Ms. Jackson was touched on that. Could you explain it to me? And it was explained very well. So could you, if God forbid there was an accident, the steps you would take and how we would notify people?
The first step we would have to do was we would have to notify EMA. EMA has the on-site GMAC contacts so that the alert notices can go out over the information systems that we do have in place right now. So once those were let out, most of it in a train derailment is door-to-door evacuation. Is door-to-door. They're, especially at the times of the night that these are happening, It would be door to door, all hands on deck, door to door notification, getting those people out as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of room through the middle of Rincon. God forbid a disaster ever happen like in Palestine. Unfortunately, things are gonna happen.
Chief, I know that when we had the plane land over by Gulfstream Road, I know that we were asked to come to that as well.
That's correct.
I just wonder if there is conversation between you, Port Wentworth, all those guys in the event, because that train comes through there. So in the event that something like that happens, everybody's on board for that emergency.
Yes, in the event, like I have Roadmaster Poston's contact information, and that's who I call when that train is blocking 15th Street, so I know what's going on, whether there's a tree across the tracks somewhere in Garden City or vice versa. And luckily, it's been quite a while, knock on wood, except for 2.5 weeks ago when the coupler broke on the train. We do train with other organizations. We just got through with the triennial airport disaster drill. So all the agencies in Chatham County and Effingham were there to work on our emergency response capabilities.
Just so I'm clear, the ordinance states that the Effingham County Clint.
EMA director.
He is the one who is in charge and has the powers to go through trees and to evacuate once an emergency is handled. Is that just him for us as well, or do you become the person for Rincon?
I become the incident commander for Rincon. What happens when you call the EMA director is he is able to handle things on a federal level.
Okay.
He is our federal contact at that point in time to get us the resources that we need.
Okay. Good.
Kind of how big it is.
Correct.
He's control of everything if it's a big enough capacity.
Right.
All of our equipment and everything else belongs to him. It's under his control.
Pray to God nothing ever does happen. But
Ms. Lewis, Ms. Lewis Terry, would you make a note and let's discuss sometime code enforcement officer?
All right, we're ready to move to item 2, new business. Accept the bid and contract with the Effingham County Board of Commissioners to purchase the Ebenezer Road Fire Station.
Mayor and council, as you know, they moved in July the 1st of the 2023 into that station. This price was discussed and agreed upon between the mayor, attorney, and the city county manager. And this is finalized in that process, signing the contract so that they can start closing on the.
Make a motion, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask, you didn't say that you agreed. Do you agree?
I do agree. Yes. Yes.
I did say earlier.
He said it last time.
Definitely.
What was it, do we know what it was phrased at?
Yes. You got it.
Two extremes.
Two extremes.
Very extreme.
Yes.
Yeah.
Two very extremes, and we were happy with the
middle.
But then,
The
yeah.
middle?
yes.
Yeah.
It's actually just a building, right?
That's correct.
Just a building.
That's correct. Land was owned by the county.
Yeah.
So it's just a metal building?
That's it.
That's it.
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Taylor, second by Mr. Blackwell to accept the bid and contract with the Effingham County Board of Commissioners to purchase the Ebenezer Road Fire Station, and that amount is $250,000. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Bauer? Yes. Mr. Exley?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Item number 3, new business, is vote to appoint 2 new members to the Planning and Zoning Board. Ms. Lewis?
Yes, and I would like to update this just a little bit. We had our meeting last Tuesday, our Planning and Zoning Board meeting, and after that, one of our members has suggested that they would like to come off at the end of this year. They have one more term, or they have one more year left. They would go through December 2024, but they would prefer to come off at the end of this year. And since we did have a lot of really good candidates, as you could see from the applications that I forwarded to y'all. And then after, Mayor Lee, after you asked about doing an interview, I did go ahead and put together just a real short list of questions that I thought would be good to know, and had either phone call or in-person conversations with all but one of the applicants to, to just go through those, to go ahead and make the recommendations that I did to y'all. So if we were going to add that third person, my recommendation would still be the same, that we would recommend the first two, Tricia Boyette and Justin Doss, to fill the two vacant positions. They would start at the November 21st meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board. And then when our other member finished his term at the end of December, I would recommend Daniel Elliott to fill that position, having him start at the January Planning and Zoning Board meeting.
Okay. You hear the recommendation of our Planning and Zoning Director. Any questions for her or comments?
Motion to approve.
I was just gonna say, I just wanted to look at Daniel Elliott a little closer. I looked at the other two, but can we hold off maybe to the next meeting on that one? Is that okay? Are you good with that?
Absolutely, because he
It's
wouldn't be
not on
appointed
there.
till
It's not
January
on there.
anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
We're
can,
not gonna add him to.
I can put that on the next agenda for sure.
Motion to approve the two that you.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Exley, second by Ms. Taylor, to appoint the two new members to the Planning and Zoning Board on the recommendation of our Planning and Zoning Director. Those two members would be Tricia Boyette and Justin Doss, and they would begin their term on November the 1st of 2023. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Broward?
Yes.
Mr. Exley?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Item number 4, new business, is request approval to upgrade MR system SCADA, computer and software in the amount of $25,547. Line item number 320, 4440, 542415.
Mr. Mayor and Council, that's to replace the SCADA computer that's in my office, the tower. It's a Windows 7. Don't laugh. And then update the SCADA software to bring it more in compliance and more secure.
How long have we had the system we're currently using, Tim?
I think it is 2009.
Yay, we're getting updated.
Tim, I meant to send you a note today, but I forgot. Is it possible to upgrade your RAM to more than 16 gig? Because that's not gonna hold you for very long. Is it possible, or is it just too late? Because
No, I mean, I can change it, but I may change the price.
I think it would be well worth it. Just Windows 11 and the stuff that you're gonna be using, it's a power hog, and I think you're gonna need it at least 32 gig instead of the 16.
32?
Yes, sir.
Would you all approve the price within 10% of the current price, so Tim doesn't have to come back for any additional?
RAM is not that expensive. It should, I'm pretty comfortable with 10%.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
For just that one upgrade, yeah.
I'll make a motion we approve with the upgrade.
Second.
With the 10%.
Yeah.
A motion by Ms. Taylor, second by Mr. Exley, to approve upgrading of the MR systems, SCADA computer and software in the amount of $25,547 with a up to 10% increase above that for the 32 gigabyte upgrade. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Broward? Yes. Mr. Exley?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Item number 5 is approval of a resolution to update the signature cards for the city of Rankin and Marist bank accounts. Mr. Lynn?
It's just to add, Councilmember Exley's name to the account for signers of checks.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Scott, second by Mr. Brower to approve the resolution to update the signature cards for the city of Rankin and Marist bank accounts. Any other questions or discussion? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Brower?
Yes.
Mr. Exley?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Item number 6 is request approval of a revision to the city personnel policy, section 5.07G, flex time and comp time.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. We were just looking at how the attachment uploaded. I apologize for the question marks. I was not questioning anything in the document, but some of the T's and periods have come over as question marks. But what you all have in front of you is what we discussed at the right before the joint workshop of the Planning and Zoning Board several weeks back, just requesting an update to our flex and comp time policy. What you see in front of you includes that policy with the requested changes we talked about in that meeting, such as, obviously salary employees are the only ones that benefit from comp time, and hourly employees, maintain that overtime privilege should they work the hours over. 1 hour worked equals 1 hour of comp time. And just based upon that conversation, I did include amend item C, that if you accrue comp time, you must use that comp time within 30 days of earning it. There could be a special circumstance here or there approved by the city manager, but that standard practice will be to use that within 30 days. That's going to be comp time accrual sheets as we provided to the city manager at each pay period. The department heads are already submitting here just kind of their time on a spreadsheet to keep track anyway. It would just be added to that, as well as item E that talks about the flexible work schedule we talked about. Should the department head allow employees, they could flex their time and do 4 10-hour days, totally specific to the department and up to the department head, based upon schedules and covers that would be needed. This is a part of our personnel policy, so it would be updated in there with a new policy to be signed by every employee. And it does replace item G, as you see the language there, where it just says essentially no comp time, no flex time at all. That is all I have on that item. I'm happy to answer any questions.
On item C, just to make it clear, so if they were the 2-week time period, they accumulated 5 hours. So at the end of that time slot, say it was Monday of next week was when it ended, that time, that 30-day clock would start from that Monday.
That's correct, after the pay
At the
period.
end of that pay period.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Any other questions for Mr. Lamb? Okay, if not, the motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Scott, second by Mr. Blackwell to approve the revision to the city personnel policy, section 5.07G, flex time, comp time. Any other question or discussion? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Brower?
Yes.
Mr. Exley?
Yes.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
All right, we'll move now into item 6A, which is our administrative reports. Mr. Lamb?
Yes, sir. I have a couple things. We'll be sending pictures along to you all tomorrow. Patriots Park is completed. They are waiting on one gate for the top deck to come in that was not included by the manufacturer. So once that's in, and they clean up the site, the park, the playground is fully completed. I'll be sending along pictures of that. Remind everybody that's able to attend, anyone here, Parker's is doing their ribbon cutting tomorrow morning at 11. It's the new Parker's in Rankin at the corner of 9th and 21. I know Delcia may have sent out email to everybody, just a reminder that GMA is having their district meeting in Guyton November 1st. So if anyone wants to go, please let myself or Delcia know if you haven't registered and would like to attend. We are scheduled tentatively to do our employee lunch this year on November the 16th. I'll be sending out the details to you all for that. Very similar to what we did last year. And just to remind everyone, it was in the newsletter and sent an email that I will be at the Georgia City County Managers Conference Wednesday through Friday this week. So that's it. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Lynn?
Can we, as soon as that park is finished, can we get a grand opening of some kind? You know, we can do, you know, hot dog, hamburger, or something to provide to the kids for the opening of the park. I would really like to be able to do that. And maybe like a ribbon cutting or something, because it's a beautiful park.
Absolutely.
I would really like to do that.
Right, but before we do that, we need to have designated areas where people park. I don't want them just driving all crazy, because we don't have a parking area out there.
It's just a grass.
Right.
Before that little swell too, because there's a little swell for drainage between where the parking may be and where the park is.
You sure can.
Any other questions for Mr. Lynn? Police Department, Chief Merle?
Mayor and Council, I'm available for questions. I don't think I have anything of importance to report.
Questions, Chief Merle?
Chief, the band have greatly appreciated the use of the lights. Definitely helped. It got really dark. But they greatly appreciated the use of the lights.
No problem, no issues?
No.
We'll bring my second one back.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to you after.
Thank you, Chief. Fire Department, Chief Reed?
Mayor and council got some really good applications lately. Hopefully, if I haven't heard anything from y'all tomorrow, maybe we can, put together some conditional offers for at least one employee this week. And waiting on some background checks on the others. Hopefully start filling vacancies. Available for any questions.
How many were you short?
Two.
Two.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Chief Reed? Thank you, Chief. Planning and zoning, Ms. Lewis?
Nothing to report. I'm available for any questions that anybody may have.
Any questions for Ms. Lewis? All right. Public Works, Mr. Bowles?
Nothing to report.
Any questions for Mr. Bowles? All right. Golf, Mr. Bessinger?
I'm a little bummed. I guess I'm gonna miss the employee lunch. I'm going on vacation. I have nothing to report more than the report that I did for mid-October. We had a good weekend, this past weekend, so I'm available for any questions.
One question on the cart paths. I noticed today, while walking across one or two of them, that I noticed some paint markings on where the rust spots or low spot. Are y'all surveying that for paving or anything?
No.
Or
sir.
drainage? I just, yeah.
No, I think that was done previously, and then as soon as we get a new superintendent on board, that's something that we're gonna start to tackle, is marking off the spots, and then Mr. Bolden and I have already talked about kind of doing that as a winter project.
Okay, maybe, yeah. What about the herbicide, pre-emergent, was it applied?
It was, so we actually have someone coming back to, same guys coming back to do our greens Wednesday, and then also going to ask him to go over to the rec department and survey over there, just to see what he can do over there.
Okay.
I don't know what all he can do, but we'll find out.
Different type of grass, I
And
assume.
possibly our new park, Patriots Park, I want them to look over there too.
Yeah, so, I mean, he does own a farm, so, I mean, he's an agricultural guy, you know?
Okay.
So he does all kinds of grasses, but we'll see.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry?
Sprinkler head.
Still cut off.
Ordered,
Still cut off.
but is it ordered?
Still cut off.
So not ordered, can't find it.
Plead the fifth.
I don't actually know what you're talking about.
Come on. All right. Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Bessinger? All right, anything from council members?
I have something I'd like to
Can
add.
I say something from here before y'all get into y'all stuff? It's about recreation. And it's just real quick. Back early in the spring, might have been January, February, March, Michelle and I and some beautification went over and walked the park with Ashton and some of them and tried to get a punch list of things to do to beautify Macomber. And, everything's been kind of on sitting. I know that coming into the new year, y'all are working on budgets, and I've got a background in construction, and I know y'all in the budget process, so I wanted to give y'all, I just went through and pulled out some of the things we could do to revitalize and get Macomber up to par, and what it might take to get you there. But it would help for y'all to budget this. I know I talked to Patrick about us needing a plan. These are not for construction budget numbers, but really to get Macomber back up to par, you're gonna need about $195,000. What I would like to do though, I even called Freddie Long today to see if he'd walk over there with me. Couldn't get him, but to get some contractors in our community that could go walk that park with us and give us some better budget numbers, maybe, and look at what we can do. So when the new person comes on board, that, they would have some budget to work with and everything. But anyway, I wanted to give y'all this budget tonight and just pass it out so you'll have it. And y'all will have some idea of what needs to be done over there. And then the other thing is I would like for y'all, because I saw what was posted for the job description for that, and that needs to be some bachelor's degree, not 4 years of high school. That person would need to have some management degree skills, maybe sports management, employment management degrees and experience, because you've got a lot coming in our future with Parks and Recreation that's going to have a lot of skills. So I would like for y'all to look at redoing those job descriptions if you don't mind. But this was just for your knowledge. I mean, estimates. And and I just went through our punch list. Jonathan actually got the punch list a long time ago. And y'all look at what my computer did. They'll have to share with you. I'll email it to y'all.
I don't need one, give them one.
Okay, I'll email it to you. I'll email it. But that's what it's gonna take to get Macomber Park, I think.
Johnson already has this. Johnson already has
Yeah,
this.
so you can email it to y'all?
I'm gonna say by him because he need to be the one to have it.
I'll email it to him.
And to determine the funding.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that would get it up to par, because then when your new people come on and they get their staff set, then, they need to keep it maintained and at that level and then decide what the next projects will be. But you've got some ADA issues out there with sidewalks and stuff, so that's why I'd like to see about utilizing our local contractors and our local business to see if they come in and help us put a plan together just to get it revitalized and get it back up to par, and then whoever takes it over would go from there. But we need to have something in place so they don't come in with nothing. So that's just information.
Don't we have 150,000?
I don't know, but I know several months ago after me and you had that walk and we talked, I told Jonathan I was not going to approve a budget if rec did not have at least $150,000.
Well, I know
Just what you're talking about.
SPLOS has 150.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about 150 just to take care of the sidewalks, the ADA things, all the.
Well, and
all of that.
but there's a list of things, and there was a lot of other stuff. But the other thing is too, is that we would like to organize some community work days over there too. We'd like to organize some community work days for things like shrubs and cleaning things up and maybe painting some poles or something, but try and get the community involved back over there again, so.
And then the second thing, Jonathan, can you look at the ad, because I definitely agree with what Ms. Monk, they definitely need some management experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Patrick, the field one is higher, so when it drains, it runs right into the concession stand. It floods that area. You can see all the rust on the slab because from the clay, it actually just drains back to the concession stand.
I've got to call in Doug Morgan. I'm gonna get Doug to get out there with us and walk it and see what he can, because he's an engineer, and see what he can do. Because I know there's some drainage on the.
Let's make sure we're giving this project back to the city manager.
Right.
And because, the stuff that we're discussing now, it's not agenda item, and we shouldn't be here, and it's his responsibility to direct this stuff.
It'll go to the city manager.
I'm gonna say something real quick.
Yes, sir.
I would love to go out and walk with Miss Mona and somebody else here. I am local here. I do own a concrete company. I live in Lost Plantation.
Yes.
So I'm also ACI certified. I go every year
see the American Concrete Institute and get that every year as well. So we'd love to coordinate that with you guys and
We'll take a walk.
meet all those requirements.
What's your name, sir?
Joshua Gracio.
He lives on St. Andrews.
I know.
By the park path.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Tracy.
Yeah, so, on at the October 9th meeting, you know, I discussed, we had some past due invoices, with our city attorney. You know, interrupted there, but now I asked that we be called up in 30 days. It's 14 days, it's been 3 emails that I've sent, and I've heard nothing. I'm demanding that this be done in the next 15 days. It's taxpayer dollars, and it needs to be taken care of. If that's not bad enough, I want to make sure that everybody's aware of the emails that we got inquiring, we inquired the council receiving, stating that we were advising an employee while this employee was in litigation. These are things that we need to look at. If this is factual, then we need to be working on that, Jonathan. Mr. Dickey, you've not responded to any attempts of myself, and I'm sure not the city manager, to rectify the invoices or anything else that I requested. I feel that's insubordinate as a contractor to a current city council member. If the council does not follow the plan, I'll be asked to be granted an attorney to protect myself from any retaliatory stance that may be taken against me for discussing facts. I've asked guys that it get done. It's a contractor. If it was anybody else that we owed money or owed us money, it would be done today. This has been going on for years. We paid out 2016 invoices in 2018. 2 years behind. If everybody wants respect from me that's in here, I expect to have the same respect back. I'll pass it back to you.
All right, anything else from council members?
Nothing. Ms. Mona, I just want to address you as far as no one looking down. I was typing and could not talk. I wanted to respond, but because we're out of the public hearing, I can't talk to it. But I do want you to know I was listening, but I was typing and looking down, and that's why I was not looking at you. I did want to point that out. My other question is, do we have anything? Kevin just brought up a lot of things. Do we need to talk about it? What do we do? I don't, there's.
You want to respond, Raymond?
There's a whole lot to respond to.
I would like to.
The invoices are
I'd like
behind.
Jonathan.
But I will say this much, I don't bill for everything that I do for this city. And I haven't billed for a lot of things that I do for this city. I try to keep it lower so that it doesn't harm the budget. And I've done that for many, many, many years. I've put in extra time that I have not charged this city for. And as far as some comment concerning, I guess you're talking about Mr. Osborne, is that what you're saying? The question was asked whether or not this city has ever allowed someone who has been paid workers' comp settlement to continue to be employed at this city. And that is absolutely the case. There was a police captain, Jose Ramirez, that received a settlement. He continued employment through the whole time period, even afterwards.
Right. I guess my question is, that's not our position or your position to advise of that.
Advise what?
Advise him whether he should do that or not.
If someone asks a question concerning that, I'm not gonna lie to them. I'm gonna tell them
Right, but you
the truth of the
represent the
matter.
city.
What?
You represent the city, though, correct?
Yeah, but that doesn't harm the city in one bit. That was the question that was asked. This question was asked by this council. Has anybody, and there's been others. He's not, Ramirez isn't the only one. There's been other ones that have resolved cases and continued their employment with the city. They've received settlements through workers' comp, and they continue their employment with the city over the years.
I was basing that off of an email that I read from another attorney, not my personal.
I don't know what the attorney said. I have no earthly idea. I don't know what was said between them. But it seems in this particular case that Mr. Osborne was treated differently. So, and wasn't given the opportunity to continue his employment. But that as it is, I mean, it's done and over with, so.
So I guess we're okay with that comment.
But the GMA requires them to resign. So
Why do we do it?
Well, it's not GMA, it's your workers' comp.
yeah,
And that's what I'm saying to you, that is not always the case. I don't know who they spoke to, with the city, where someone with the city may have said, we want this as a requirement, or they may have done it on their own. I do not know.
Well,
so
yeah.
they did in the email.
Dulcie and Jonathan, did you guys speak to anybody there and tell them that's what we were requesting?
I did not. Once we got involved after finding out about it at the last meeting, we were told that this is what was passed along to Dulcie and I in the emails, that under no circumstances would GMA/Corvell, our workers' comp firm that Mr. Dippy was referring to, they would not authorize a settlement without a resignation for anyone. That's kind of their policy across the state for everybody. That's what they do because they represent a pool of money that member participants, in which we are one of them, that they deal with. That way, there's no risk of re-injury. You're not putting anybody, back in harm's way. You're not putting the city back in liability. So it was that far along in the process before we ever got wind of it. It was already passed along to the state workers' comp board at that point. So.
And I did request during our budget meetings that I thought that we leaned on Raymond too much. And I understand what he says about not recording every hour that he works. And I said, you know what, we can read ordinances, we can read policies. We need to take the time to read some of that ourselves instead of saying, oh, I gotta call Raymond. That wasn't a knock at Raymond. That was saying that we were elected here to run the city. We need to make sure that we read ourselves. And if we don't understand it, then we can reach out. But not reading it and just saying, you know what, we can call Raymond. It's not fair.
And then maybe he could catch up on his invoices.
Correct.
As far as the workers' comp thing, I think, what you have described is a common practice. I don't know that it's always a given that that's the way it's going to be. There are always extenuating circumstances in a workers' comp claim, but that is a common practice that's exercised in a workers' comp claim or settlement.
Oh, to release.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that happens every time because circumstances are different, but I know that that's common.
I mean, I know people's worked out their workers' comp plan, their time off, and then came back. I've just never seen where there was a settlement issue.
But they didn't sue workers' comp.
Right. There was no pursuit to work the city.
To speak to that, the very same thing happened to me 35 years ago on workers' comp. I had to resign. It's common practice.
It is. Okay.
Well, and that's why I don't,
And that saves the employer from being put into a recurring liability, because if you go back and get hurt again with the same thing, you're gonna file workers' comp again.
that's why I feel like the last comment that Mr. Dickey made was that we were doing something wrong is not a fair statement.
No one said you're doing anything wrong.
No.
It's just simply stated as a
Wrong, yeah.
thing. With this city recently, in recent time, there have been employees that have resolved workers' comp and received settlements with disabilities. And were paid by the same company, Corvell, and they continued their employment and were not required not only to be, to resign and not only to never work for the city again. Those were just some of the things that.
So basically the same scenario, but they ended up staying, retaining their job.
That is correct. They retained their job, never missed a beat, and then got re-injured a second time. And the same thing occurred again, so, and they weren't required to resign. I'm just saying to
Yeah, but that's a
this
lot of
mayor.
money. I'm sorry, that's
And I
costing the
thought
city
you were,
money.
I thought you were CC'd on that email, the one that I read, I thought you were CC'd on that, that's the reason why I said
But
that.
moving forward, spinning the wheels, moving forward, we need to make sure we put it in place that we will not allow it to happen again.
Right.
Because I know for a fact that we've had employees that got injured, filed work complaint, got a settlement, and came back to work. So what we need to do now, moving forward, say we will not allow it to happen again. And if we have to put a policy in place, put it in place. But all this spinning the wheel about what happened, what's the past, we need to move forward now.
It's already in place because
So that's what I'm saying.
they wouldn't let him do it. So, I mean, it's just the bottom line.
Well, the bottom line is, he's gone. I don't know much about it, but he's gone. And that's a good thing, because liability, if you say liability, you don't want to place that person in that same liability. You know, in my experience, we have placed them in jobs, but that's not, different jobs, but that's not with a settlement. With a settlement, they have to leave.
Right.
All right, okay, so wait a minute. So there was a workman's comp suit filed, and he was continued to work. So, and Jonathan and y'all just found, he was allowed to go back on the premises while he's under suit. And y'all just found out about it when?
Well, first of all, it's not a suit.
It's
It's a
settlement.
workers' comp claim.
Well, I know when
Totally
they've had
separate.
it, when I've had them with, our company, they've never let our employees come back on premises. I don't know.
Between state and federal laws.
All right, anything else from council members?
We have one more. I've got a quick question, from the city, I guess to the city attorney. You represent us as a city, or as them as a city. If I asked you something as you the prosecutor, would you not tell me to seek my own legal counsel?
As a prosecutor?
Like, this in a scenario, like you represent our city, the suit, the workman's comp suit.
It's not a suit.
Or the workman's comp claim, the situation, whatever. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know the proper terminology, but if the employee asks you, you say you don't want to lie to them, well, you recommend seek your own legal advice, correct? Because we gotta.
This question came up from other people besides the claimant in the matter.
Was it the plaintiff's attorney?
No, I've never even spoken to the plaintiff's attorney or the claimant's attorney.
All right. Yeah. All right, anything else from council members?
So we didn't resolve anything.
All right, I think we have a need for an executive session. I'll entertain a motion to.
This has got to stop, guys. This right here has to stop. This is not transparency at all.
Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Taylor, second by Mr. Blackwell, to go into executive session. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Gowdy?
Good night, y'all.
Terry, don't see
Okay, hold on, I get you one.